Hello and welcome to 3 Inning Fan, the podcast with me, Kelley Franco. The MLB hot stove season so far has been more of a lukewarm stove, or maybe a did you remember to turn this thing on, and is it working, and do we need to call a repairman kind of stove situation. Why? Because the earth has stopped spinning until Juan Soto signs with a club. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about the Mets and the Yankees' alternative plans if they don't get Soto. We'll highlight the big name free agent pitchers on the market and whether they fit on one of the New York teams. And we're also going to talk about the Rule 5 draft and why I think it's one of the quirkier and sneakier MLB procedures out there. Let's get on it. The Soto sweepstakes. All right, the Mets. The Soto sweepstakes, in terms of the Mets, had mystery, intrigue, and now even Francisco Lindor flying out to California to try to recruit Soto along with Steve Cohen. And that was on TMZ, so that was kind of glamorous. And Steve Cohen, he has his chance to have his moment with Mets fans. With Soto, the challenge is that the Yankees are the incumbent. He was happy with the Yankees, so the Mets need to come in high and strong. Play the club culture card, not the culture club card, the club culture card, and the future card. This idea that the Mets are on the upswing and that Cohen will do whatever he needs to do and spend whatever he needs to spend to build a winning team. Are other teams inquiring? Of course. But Soto as a Blue Jay? Sorry, I'm not feeling it. As a Red Sox? Maybe. But I honestly think this comes down to the two New York teams. The Soto signing won't drag on. I'm thinking it could be wrapped up by Christmas, or I'm hoping even the winter meetings, which are December 8th through 11th down in Dallas. So this is good because honestly, I'm getting a little Juan Soto fatigue. The reason it won't drag on is because Soto is the bottleneck, the domino that needs to fall before other top players sign. Soto's jilted suitors will need to pivot, and they're going to need to spend that money somewhere that they were allocating for Soto. So Bregman, Alonso, Burns, Minaya, these guys are still Boras clients too. So Boras needs to sign Soto so he can get his other clients taken care of. Boras is going to want to put a bow on Soto as soon as he can and get his other guy signed. And to be honest, even for the other top free agents who are not Boras clients, they're still going to want to get the best deal possible. So they're not going to sign until Soto has signed. They won't know what kind of money is available to them until Soto is taken off the table. Speaking of newsworthy free agents, I want to talk about some of the free agent pitchers that are out there, and one of them who has a great story is Roki Sasaki. Roki Sasaki is the 23-year-old Japanese pitcher who the world first saw in the 2023 World Baseball Classic. And he has been posted by his team, the Chiba Latte Marines. He throws over 100 miles per hour, and he has complimentary pitches too. Now, because of his youth, he cannot sign a major league contract for hundreds of millions of dollars, like Yoshinobu Yamamoto did, to the tune of $325 million. In fact, Sasaki is only eligible as an international amateur free agent and can only sign a minor league contract. And instead of hundreds of millions, he can only get a contract using the team's international bonus pool money, which caps out around $7 million, but could be less. Now, keep in mind that just because he can only sign a minor league contract doesn't mean he can't play in the major league. So just know that. But whichever club signs him will control him through 2030. So you are talking about an incredible bargain here. The Mets, of course, are interested. I mean, who wouldn't be interested? Stearns went to Japan to watch him pitch and expressed interest in him. You know, there can't be a club that doesn't want this guy, especially at this price. Are the Dodgers a foregone conclusion? No. But are they a good guess? Yes. Let's face it. To me, I think that being a Los Angeles Dodger has got to be the pinnacle of accomplishment for Japanese ball players now. The Dodgers have Ohtani, they have Yamamoto, they won the World Series, and it's geographically close to home if you're a Japanese ball player. Then again, who knows? I mean, maybe Sasaki wants to be more of a trailblazer and go somewhere else. You never know. Maybe instead of complimenting Ohtani and Yamamoto, he wants to compete with them. Maybe he wants to shine on his own. Or maybe one thing he wants to do is really be on his own and develop as a pitcher. And I think one thing the Mets do very well is pitcher development. So that could be alluring to him. Why did the Chiba Latte Marines post him so early? Now, for Sasaki, I can kind of see why he would want the early posting. He's signing early and losing money that he would have gotten later if he had waited longer. But he will make millions in endorsements, and then the time will come where he can sign a mega contract and his free agency will arrive and he can do it just like Ohtani did. But why did the Chiba Latte Marines post him so early? They get 20% of the contract he signs. They left possibly tens of millions of dollars on the table by posting him at a time when he was only eligible for a minor league contract out of bonus pool money. I haven't heard a single solid explanation for why the Chiba Latte Marines agreed to post him early. I would love to know that story. So anyway, there won't be any Sasaki news until after January 15th because that is when the new international signing period begins. Other MLB pitchers on the market that could fit in New York, notably with the orange and blue, since we're talking about the Mets right now. Let's remember that the Mets are losing Sean Manaea, Luis Severino, and Jose Quintana. They basically need a whole new rotation aside from Kodai Senga. Yeah, they have Dave Peterson, Paul Blackburn, and Tyler McGill. But if they want to make a deep run in 2025, and we all know they do, they're going to need some muscle in the starting pitching department. They extended the qualifying offer to Severino, and he has until tomorrow to decide if he'll accept it. But the rumors I'm hearing are that he's going to reject it. How would Corbin Burnes fit into the Mets? Just great. And Stearns knows Burnes from their Brewers days together. I don't think he fits particularly well with the Mets, meaning any better than he fits with any other team. He's just a great pitcher, and any team would be lucky to have him. But the Mets have a need, and so because they have a need, they may tender the best offer to him. The big question on Burnes for me is whether the Orioles can hold on to him. Orioles has new ownership down there, and the expectation was they were going to be able to extend some of their young players and also maybe flex and hold on to free agent stars like Corbin Burnes. We'll see if they do that. Burnes is 30 years old. He's going to be looking for a 7-year deal, and this kind of sparks a ongoing conversation I have in my head, which makes me sound so normal. But this idea of long contracts for starting pitchers, and this isn't directed particularly at Burnes. It's really for any starting pitcher out there that's looking for a long contract. Are clubs going to continue to give long-term contracts to starting pitchers, particularly those that throw hard? Given their high injury rate and the fact that so many need Tommy John surgery and that when they have the Tommy John surgery, they miss over a year, you got to wonder if these long-term deals will vanish. Manaea is going to be 33 years old next season, all right? Let's talk about him for a second because, gosh, the Mets would be psyched to have him back. He fit in so well in New York. I used to love how he would take the subway to the games. He always just seemed to love New York. And, Every time I saw an interview with him, I always just had this feeling like, gosh, what a nice guy he is. He just always seems so regular, very appealing to me. I would love to keep him in New York. Boris is his agent. In terms of a contract, he's going to be asking for number one starter money, which is $35 to $40 million a year. But the reality is he's probably due number two starter money, which I would peg at $23 to $25 million a year. Anaya will probably be looking for a 4-year deal, so you may have to do 4 years to get him. 3 years would be ideal in my mind, but could wind up being 4. Another 33-year-old out there is Blake Snell. He had a great year last year. Well, I should say he had a great second half last year. He was off to a slow start after he missed spring training due to his late signing. But he would be a good catch. If you could get him for 3 years, 4 years again, if you need to, I think that would be great. The rumor about Snell is that he really prefers the West Coast, so I don't know if he would consider coming east. I'm curious to see if Stearns signs any of the big name pitchers. It seems like he needs at least one. But Stearns likes short-term deals, and he likes reclamation projects. He likes to find these guys and polish them up, and he's got that really good pitching development there. And, look with Sean Manaea. He really blossomed this year after he made a few changes. So I think the Mets do like these projects, but I don't know if that's going to hold Stearns back from signing one of these really big-name guys like Corbin Burns or Snell. Some other options that might be a little bit under the radar. One that comes to mind is Nate Eovaldi. He was on the World Champion Rangers in 2023. He pitched really well in the postseason, and it's good to know that you can pitch in the postseason because it is a whole different kettle of fish. And we also know that he can pitch in New York because he was a Yankee, and that is also a really important intangible that doesn't show up on the balance sheet. I'd like a short-term deal with Eovaldi. There's also Walker Buehler. The Dodgers may not have room for him if they wind up signing Sasaki, but of course the Dodgers seem to have room for everybody, don't they? But he also, Walker Buehler, has postseason experience, so he could be a nice signing for the Mets. And then we have to look at trades, okay? We can't just look at free agents. And the top trade candidate out there for starting pitchers is Garrett Crochet. So he would be expensive in terms of prospects. So you always have to decide if you want to part with your beautiful young prospects. The Mets have kind of been stingy about trading prospects recently. You don't want to see your number one prospect, Brandon Sproat, that beautiful young pitcher, go. Or Jet Williams. Speaking of prospects, let me tell you, he had a scary moment in the Arizona Fall League, banged himself up against the outfield wall. He sprained his ankle, but apparently he's going to be fine. Nice to be young, isn't it? Have you subscribed to this podcast? The button should be right there, and you could hit it, and it's just a few inches away from the like button, which you could also hit. That would be awesome. Isn't technology easy and fun? Let's talk about the Yankees. Soto fits into the Yankees because the Yankee legacy is one of great hitters. Let's face it, it is. We all love, at least real baseball fans, we love great pitching. We really do. But the Yankees' legacy is great hitting. So if they don't get Soto, will they pivot to great pitching? Sure, they could. But they could also focus on other position players like Santander, Bregman, Adames, all for the price of one Juan Soto. But then they won't have a legend. So what is the backup plan for the Yankees if they don't get Soto? I think Pete Alonso could be a real target, since the Yankees had underperforming first baseman for 2024, and it was really aggravating. Christian Walker is another free agent option for first base. The Yankees need a slugger there. So here's the deal. Alonso is 29, and Walker is 33. Alonso hits with more power. I mean, out of the two, Alonso, to me, is far and away more desirable in terms of performance and age. Definitely on paper. However, Walker is going to be cheaper because he's 4 years older, and he does still have some slug, but just not as much as Alonso. So there's this possibility, I think, that if the Yankees signed Soto, they could have enough money left over to sign Christian Walker, and that would be nice. I do not think the Yankees can sign both Soto and Alonso. The Mets, on the other hand, could sign both Soto and Alonso because Uncle Stevie can do these things. And I would think the Yankees would target Willy Adames or Bregman to play third base. And then what they would do is move Chisholm back to second base. He's a natural second baseman anyway, but they had him playing the hot corner after they got him at the trade deadline last year. If he moves to second base, he would replace the dearly departed Gleyber Torres. So Adames is a natural shortstop, but he has said he's considering third base, and I think that he's doing that to enhance the bids on him in the free agent market. Scott Boras knows how to play it. Would the Yankees look at Nolan Arenado of the Cardinals as a potential trade target? I think so. That would be good at third base. He has a nice resume, but he didn't have a great 2024, but we know that he has the ability to produce offensively. Now, one name for you to learn, because here at 3 Inning Fan, the podcast with me, Kelley Franco, we do teach you new things. One name to learn is Caleb Durbin. He's a Yankees second or third base prospect, speedy contact hitter that we may be hearing about more in 2025, but I don't think he's actually considered 2025 ready, at least not in a plan A sense of the word. And with all that Soto money left blowing in the wind, the answer, my friend, could be that the Yankees actually consider adding starting pitching like Burns, Snell, Fried, all these guys. Although Fried, he's a ground ball pitcher, and we all know that the Yankees better tidy up that infield defense if we're going to get a ground ball pitcher specialist on there. The truth is that the Yankees don't really need starting pitching. I mean, they do in the sense that you always need starting pitching, but they don't need it like the Mets do. The Yankees have Cole, Rodon, Heel, and Schmidt. And, of course, they still have Stroman, although I'm not quite ready to hitch my wagon to his star. Rodon gives me whiplash because every time I see him pitch, I either love him or hate him. But you know what? He's got a huge contract through 2028, so he's not going anywhere. He's sticking around. But the bullpen, on the other hand, is a whole different kettle of fish. The Yankees basically need to reconstruct their entire setup crew. They have Weaver returning, thank goodness, and boy, did they get him at a bargain. So he'll probably stay in the closer role. He performed so well in that role in September or October of last season. But Jonathan Loaisiga, Clay Holmes, Tim Hill, Tommy Canley, these guys are all free agents. So who could they target? Well, I kind of like Tim Hill. I know he's not a flashy guy, but I thought he was pretty solid, so I wouldn't mind seeing him come back, and I think there's some willingness there. At least that's what I'm hearing. I'd love Tanner Scott, who's a free agent. How many times have I said that so far this postseason and this hot stove season, but also last year at the trade deadline? If I had a dime for every time I said Tanner Scott's name, I'd have like 80 cents, I think. It'd be awesome. So anyway, there's Tanner Scott. There's, Devin Williams of the Brewers. He's kind of rumored to be on the trading block, and he's good. But I honestly don't know if the Yankees are looking for new blood in the bullpen or just to kind of re-sign the old blood. One name being thrown about right now is San Francisco Giant Camilo Doval, D-O-V-A-L, who could be on the trading block because the rumor is the Giants may be shedding salary. He's a righty reliever who's under team control for 3 more years. He had a fantastic 22 and 23 season. He went 135 innings last year with a 2.73 ERA. I'm sorry, that was in 23. Last year, he actually went south. He had a 4.88 ERA. Are the Yankees up for a reclamation project? It would be very Metsy of them. I think those numbers, that 135 innings was over 2022 and 2023, just to be clear. And then last year he kind of went south. One option that could be available for trade, and this is a new one that I've kind of been reading about in the last 10 days or so, is the Cardinals closer Ryan Helsley, who had a great 2024 season. He converted 49 out of 53 save opportunities. The Cardinals are shifting their focus to their younger set. And that's why guys like Arenado and maybe Helsley could be on the trading block. Helsley's 30 years old, and he's under team control through 2025. And he may price himself out of the Cardinals market right after that. So if the Cardinals aren't going to profit from having him next year and then pay to keep him after that, you know, it's that eternal question. What do you do? Do you trade him away and get something for him? I think you do. Anyway, Helsley would likely prefer to stay a closer since that's what he was doing for the Cardinals, and the Yankees don't need a closer. But on the other hand, Helsley would probably also like to be on a team that's winning, and also he doesn't have a say in it right now. Who are the Yankees trade pieces? Well, you know, they never seem to have the prospect capital that I wish they did. Some teams really seem to have a lot. But of the players that we've seen, I would say Ben Rice, DJ LeMahieu, Marcus Stroman, they're on the trading block. I'd also throw in there Nestor Cortez. Sorry, Nestor. And Jose Trevino, their backup catcher. He's a nice clubhouse presence. He handles the pitchers well. But honestly, I do think he is dispensable. And of course, there's got to be a hole in the outfield if they don't get Juan Soto. And Anthony Santander would fit in really nicely out there in right field. Or maybe Judge moves back to right field and they try Santander in center. I don't know. They also have Jason Dominguez. Remember him. He could have a role in the outfield in 2025. I mean, but heck, you never know. I mean, they have Jason Dominguez and Spencer Jones. Remember, these guys were supposedly untouchable a year ago. They could be on the trading block. Okay, so we have some off-season calendar stuff going on, and this is MLB-wide, and so you should know what's going on with this off-season calendar so you can be an avid fan of the hot stove. Qualifying offers must be accepted by tomorrow. That's November 19th. But the other big deadline coming up is the setting of the 40-man roster. Any player not on the 40-man roster by tomorrow becomes eligible to be selected by another club in the Rule 5 draft. Now, let's take a minute to talk about the Rule 5 draft because I think that it's totally misnamed because it's not really a draft at all. In fact, I think it's just a sneaky way to grab other teams' good young players. The Rule 5 draft allows clubs without a full 40-man roster to select certain non-40-man roster guys from other clubs and keep them as their own. Clubs draft in reverse order of the standings from the prior year. So here's how it works. If a team chooses a player from another club, the selecting club pays the players club $100,000. The drafting team will have to add that player to the 26-man roster, keep him there for the entirety of the season, and keep him active for at least 90 days. Should that drafting team wish to remove that player from the 26-man roster, the rules get complex, but the kind of short, plain vanilla version is that the player must clear waivers. Then the drafting club must offer him back to the original team for $50,000. And only if the original team passes on him, the drafting team can then option him to the minors. Who's eligible for the Rule 5 draft? A player who signed when he was 19 or older and who has played professional ball for 4 years is eligible. Also, players who signed at 18 and have played ball for 5 years are eligible. but players who are on a 40-man roster cannot be snagged in a Rule 5 draft. So that's why that roster setting is pretty important. So why do we have this Rule 5 draft? Well, it's designed to keep teams from hoarding their good young players. This year, the deadline to add the players is tomorrow, so this process is about to begin. Oh, and the adding to the roster is tomorrow, but the actual draft of the guys is on December 11th, right at the tail end of the winter meetings. Let's close it up with what's good to eat while watching the ball game or while watching this podcast. Today, we're talking about steak, specifically ribeye steaks. My crew, which includes a vegetarian, is making me laugh right now, but I will not laugh. I will not. Okay, so I am talking 2.5-inch thick ribeye steaks. I had some for dinner this Saturday night when we were having guests over, and I bought them. And then sometimes, like you do when you buy something, you get home and you think, oh my God, how am I going to cook this? Because the thing was, they were so thick that I was concerned about cooking them evenly because I didn't want to end up with a situation where they were like burned on the outside and raw on the inside. So I did some research and I wanted to learn how to get this perfectly cooked medium rare interior. So it turns out that the best way to cook a very thick steak is using something called the reverse sear method. With this method, you cook it slowly first, and then you finish it by searing the outsides. And you do that over the very highest heat, and you get a beautiful crust. So to prep the steaks, I salted them heavily with kosher salt and let them sit in the fridge uncovered, and that helps draw moisture away from the edges. So that'll contribute later to getting that really crispy, crusty exterior. And then before I started cooking them, I let them sit at room temperature for about an hour because you never want to put a cold piece of meat on the grill. And so I preheated the gas grill, and then I turned it all the way down to low. And I put the steaks on the gas grill, and I let them cook, turning occasionally, until they hit about 105 to 110 degrees. And then I took them off the grill, and I fired that baby up so high that I think my guests, like looking at me through the sliding door, thought I was just going to be subsumed in flames. But I prevailed. I got it so high, and then I put the steaks back on there for about a minute, 90 seconds, both sides. They came out amazing, perfectly cooked to like that 120, 125 degree temp, crispy, delectable exterior, beautiful pinkish red inside. So that's your hot stove with a little hot stove thrown in. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.